I was lying in a hospital bed, still in my gown, an IV in my arm, and my phone was buzzing. It was my mom. Not to ask if I was scared, not to ask how the surgery went. She just said, "We can't watch the twins. You'll need to figure something else out." I stared at the screen. My surgery was in 3 hours, and I had no one. If you've ever realized, all at once, that the people you rely on don't actually have your back, you already know how heavy that moment feels. This wasn't new. Growing up, my parents always said they were fair, but fairness looked different in our house. When my younger brother needed help, they rearranged their lives. When he dropped out of college, they paid his rent. When he had a kid before he was ready, they moved in with him for months. When I asked for help, there was always a pause. When I got accepted into nursing school, they told me to be realistic. When I worked 2 jobs through pregnancy, they said that's life. When I had twins, they congratulated me, then went back to their routines. No offers, no planning, no follow-up. Just distance. Quiet distance. After the twins were born, everything became logistics. Daycare schedules, night feedings, doctor visits. I learned how to function on broken sleep. When money got tight, I picked up extra shifts. When my parents needed help with bills, I sent it. No questions. When my dad's car broke down, I loaned him money I didn't really have. I never brought it up later. I never kept score. Because that's what family does. At least, that's what I thought. Then, my doctor found something. Not immediately life-threatening, but serious enough that surgery couldn't wait. I scheduled it weeks in advance. I asked my parents early. Just one day, just while I was in the hospital. They said they'd see. The week before surgery, they still hadn't confirmed. The night before, my mom texted, "We talked about it, it's just too much for us." That was it. No alternatives. No apology. Just no. I sat on the edge of my bed, watching my twins sleep. And for the first time, I had to ask myself a question I'd avoided for years. What happens when you finally need them and they choose comfort instead? The next morning, my grandfather showed up at my apartment. He's my dad's father. Quiet, observant. He didn't ask many questions. He just listened. Then he said, "Let's go." He stayed with the twins during my surgery. He wrote everything down. The texts, the dates, the excuses. A week later, he called a family dinner. Everyone thought it was just a meal, until he stood up. He didn't raise his voice. He just read, out loud, the messages my parents sent me, word for word, the dates they helped my brother, the amounts of money I'd given them. Then he looked at my parents and said, "You raised one child to depend and one to disappear." The room went silent. If you've ever watched someone realize in real time that they can't explain their behavior away, you know that silence. No one defended them. My aunt looked away. My cousins stayed quiet. My mom tried to speak, then stopped. My dad didn't say a word. After that night, things changed. Family group chats went quiet. Invitations slowed down. People started asking me questions directly, instead of assuming. My parents didn't lose everything, but they lost something important, the illusion. They reached out later, not with apologies, with confusion. They said they didn't realize it looked that bad. They asked why I hadn't said something sooner. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just adjusted. I stopped sending money. I stopped overextending. I focused on my kids. Healing wasn't dramatic. It was practical, slow. Some relationships stayed distant. Some never recovered. and I let that be okay. Family isn't about who needs you the most. It's about who shows up when it's inconvenient. If this story feels familiar, you're not alone. And if you've ever learned, too late, who you can't depend on, type boundaries in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop disappearing for people who never looked for you.